Course in Miracles. Welcome to A Course in Miracles. I'm Earl. Purdy.
Hi, brother.
What's up? What's up? I want to welcome those brothers and sisters on Facebook Live that's checking in. I want to give everybody a chance to check in. Yeah, I love this stuff. Let's see if I can get my lesson for today. Would you like your lesson for today?
Yes.
Your message for today. I'd like to have that message too. So I'd like to ask you to take a breath. We're going to talk about the thing that we do the most, the easiest. And this is lesson 181 in the workbook. And it's called, I trust my brothers who are one with me. And I know that's what you do. I know you trust all your brothers and sisters that are one with you. You just have total trust for everybody that you're meeting. And so it's on page 337 in the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles. And what we want to do right now is allow ourselves for me to do the flight attendant part of the class, which is to tell you that if you want to make studying the Course in Miracles really easy, let go of the idea that you need to believe the ideas at first. Let go of the idea that you have to accept what I'm saying, that you have to welcome what I'm saying, that you have to believe what the Course in Miracles is saying. And this is right out of the Course in Miracles. So I think if the Course in Miracles is saying it, then that's really the approach that we need to take. So you need not believe it, accept it, welcome it. So some of it might be hard to believe, some of it might be startling. And then one of the most important things that it says is that you're not asked to judge the ideas at all, which is just the opposite of what we tend to think we need to do, is judge the ideas, which is the same as saying analyze the ideas. And then the Course in Miracles says that if you use the ideas, that's when you'll see that the ideas are true. And if you use the ideas and you see that they work, and then you find out that you stop using the ideas even when you see they work, that's your way of knowing you have serious issues. Okay, because that's the thing that I noticed, is that I would watch myself sometimes be tempted to not continue to do what worked as much as I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do when it wasn't working, which always boils down to how I feel about myself and whether or not I really think I deserve to be happy. So if you show me how to do something and it works and I still don't do it, I'd have to pretty much admit to myself that there's a part of me that does not want to be happy. And so the best way to get to the part of you that does want to be happy, according to the Course in this section called The Happy Learner, is he says, you should recognize that you're miserable and not happy, which goes opposite to a lot of the teachings that people get around positive thinking, which is that you pretend that you feel the way that you don't really feel, and then you feel that way. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a positive attitude, but I'm saying that the Course in Miracles says that you may find yourself being, come on in. You may find out you'll be much more motivated by just being honest with yourself about how you feel when you're not happy. That means recognizing that I'm miserable and being willing to say I'm miserable. Why? Because there's a part of us that doesn't want to be miserable. So the minute I say I'm miserable, then there's another part of me that's going to jump up and go, well, I want to get rid of that. I want to do something about that. But when you're miserable and you're saying you're happy, well, then what would prompt your mind to want to do anything? Right. If I'm telling myself I feel happy, then a part of me feels like there's nothing for me to do, even though I'm lying to myself because I don't feel that way. So the Course teaches that your feelings are the right use of judgment. If you're going to use judgment at all, it says that you should use your feelings, because your feelings will tell more of the truth about what's going on than what you would tell yourself intellectually. And this section is lesson 181, page 337. I trust my brothers who are one with me. And what I'm going to do is take my 40 years of being obsessed with this and try to be a means of saving time. And so that means that I trust my brothers who are one with me. The Course in Miracles says brothers is not talking about males. When it talks about brothers, it's saying equals. My equals. I trust my equals who are one with me, because we're all equal. We might have different degrees of things that we think we know, but we're all equals. So the Course in Miracles is then trying to get us to that point that we have trust, because it teaches, wow, and I didn't like to hear this when I first heard it, that trust is love. So I know people are saying the minute they love somebody, But then if they change that to trust, all of a sudden they'll get really honest with themselves real fast. Saying, I totally trust you, it gets me into a reality check much more than just saying, I totally love you. Because I kind of think, because if I say I'm totally trusting, then I know if I'm not really totally trusting. I can say I totally trust you, but the truth is, I know that I don't. Because I don't know to totally trust myself yet. How do I know I don't totally trust myself yet? I don't have peace all the time. See, that's why I think the Course in Miracles brings up so much resistance with people, is because I think it's a teaching that's impossible to sincerely study and stay in denial. And so most people's happiness comes from being in total denial. I'm denying how I really feel. I'm calling myself nicer than I really am. I said that I have more faith than I really do. And the Course in Miracles says, no, you know what, if you really love, you love everybody and you love everybody equally. Boom, out the windows. The Course says if I totally love, then I'm going to have total peace, or I'm not going to condemn or judge myself when I don't. So let's talk about trust today. I think that's a worthwhile subject, don't you? Yes. Yeah. So remember now, page 337, and I'm going to read through it, and I'm going to read through it, and then I'm going to go back through it, and so I'm going to start off right now. And I'm going to start off funky. Yes.
Did you get your leftovers from last night?
What?
Did you get your leftovers from last night?
Okay, Patrick.
I know that you got. I know that you didn't miss out.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. Let's hear it. Trusting your brothers is essential to establishing and holding up your faith in your ability to transcend doubt and lack of sure conviction in yourself. When you attack a brother, you proclaim that he is limited by what you have perceived in him. You do not look beyond his errors. Rather, his errors are magnified, becoming blocks to your awareness of the self that lies beyond your own mistakes and past his seeming sins as well as yours. Now, the reason I do that to a rhythm is because if you're listening back to the replay, if something is said in a rhythm, it's going to grab your attention more than when you just hearing a person talk. And I said it over and over again. There's always a method to my madness, even those of you who freak out because I dare do music. Okay. Some people like, the music is distracting. Well, go listen to somebody else. Right? Well, that's been the honest way I feel about it. It's like, I'm going to do what I do the way I do it, and do you actually think I'm going to change everything about the way I do it because an individual says that it doesn't work for them? You can't please everybody. You never will be able to please everybody. So if you let what somebody else says to you stop you from doing something that inspires you the way it inspires you, then you are allowing yourself not to be led by spirit, because the Course says when you're led by spirit, you feel inspired. That's going to make up noise.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The cooler is on. We're gonna be all right. It's gonna be good, y'all. I swear to God, it's gonna be good. All right. Just pretend it's a sauna. Okay. And we have no clothes on. We all sitting here together right now, just totally completely. Okay. All right. Better still, maybe not. Okay.
Don't take us under fear now.
That's what I was saying. Maybe not. I think I'll get rid of the fear right now. All right. Thank you for being here. You know, I've been traveling a bit, so it's always nice to come back to town and come back to home and see who is here for me at the new level of consciousness that I have gone to while I'm gone. Because every time you shift levels of consciousness, you shift the people that are in your experience. So one of the things is that it's important to let people move in and out, almost like a breathing process. And that first paragraph, it says on page 337, those of you who are my mighty companions watching on Facebook Live, lesson 181. So So what is essential to establishing and holding up your faith to transcend doubt and lack of faith in yourself? So it says, so how do I transcend doubt? How do I transcend lack of faith in myself? Well, it says trusting my equals, my brothers. He said that's essential. So it's interesting. Me having faith in myself ultimately is going to come from my being willing to trust you. Now, I'm not talking about trust your egos. I don't trust any of your egos, and I don't trust mine. Okay, so let's get clear about that. I'm not talking about that human identity that doesn't know whether it's coming or going, that sees itself as a victim, that projects and blames and thinks it's a body and thinks it's going to die one day and that it's got to have power, money, fame, and physical pleasure in order to be all right. That joker, I don't. Okay, because it has no consistency. It changes constantly according to what it wants at any particular time. So when the Course is talking about trusting, it's talking about trusting who you really are, who your true spiritual self is, who that true loving self that you are is. And it says, it will hold up my faith and my ability to transcend the doubt and lack of sure conviction in myself. So what happens then when I'm angry at another person and I attack another person? The Course says, well, when you attack a brother, which is a what? Equal. You're proclaiming that person is limited by what you see in them. So if I'm attacking you, then I think you are what I think you are, and I think you're limited to the limited perception I have of you. Okay, so I'm attacking you for what I see in you. Mm-hmm. Right, that's what I'm doing. And the thing that's such a trip about that is, if you would be honest with yourself, the biggest crime that anybody else commits is they don't act out your script and act the way that you want them to act, and they're not being the way you want them to be, and they're not doing what you want them to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a problem.
Crickets.
Did you hear me? 99% of the time, I really believe 100% of the time, but we'll say 99% for those of you all who want to be the yes but people. Because if you don't have to believe it, if you don't have to accept it, if you don't have to welcome it, and the Course in Miracles is saying that the hardest thing about the Course in Miracles is to get people to study it. That's the single most, and to remember anything that they've read or studied. That's why I would not use my class to analyze the ideas, because after doing this 40 years, I've seen patterns. And the pattern is, when you spend most of the class analyzing and asking the analyzation classes, it doesn't make anybody in the class any more aware of anything that you're talking about. Because all you end up doing at that time is getting more and more confused. What I need to remember is, if I'm going to have faith and conviction in there are chairs in the other room, if I'm going to have faith and conviction in myself, then I need to learn how to remove the blocks to trusting you. I need to remember that that's important for me to have faith and conviction in that's what I need to remember, not try to remember all the reasons why I should not be trusting, or hang on to my grievance, or feel justified in my grievance. Yes, but what about if somebody dropped you in your head when you was 3 years old? You know, it's like, in that case, you should be more compassionate with yourself. And I didn't know why you're crazy. You know what I'm saying? So also, try not to be so darn serious about all this, right? Because in the end, you're going to choose to act on what you hear or not act on what you hear. In the end, what's true has nothing to do with what you believe. So whether I believe in gravity or not has nothing to do with whether or not gravity is going to work. So what is real is going to be that way regardless of our opinion. So if it says to me that the way that I'm going to have faith and conviction in myself is to learn how to trust you, and whenever I'm mad at you and I'm attacking you, it's because I think you're limited by what I see in you. And then the next thing says, if I'm focused on the limitation that I see in you, you do not look beyond your own errors. So if I can't look beyond my own error, and then the Course says, well, what do you mean looking beyond your own error? My error is having a limited perception of you that I'm attacking. Because if I'm mad at you, I feel justified. So therefore, I won't even see the mistake I'm making by judging you. So like it says, you do not look beyond the error. Rather, the errors or the limitations that I project on you, the Course says they are magnified. Right? If I'm focused on what I don't like about you, then that's all I'm focused in on, and I'm not seeing anything else. So I'm not only focusing on what I perceive to be your limitations, I am magnifying them, and I'll make that the whole thing. I say a lot of times with people when I'm doing counseling, especially relationship counseling, you know, people will be so mad and ready to break up and attack each other and leave each other because of the latest thing you're upset about. I said it again, the latest thing you're upset about. And sometimes they will focus on that as if that's been the entire relationship with that person. For instance, they'll overlook that person may have sat at their bedside for 2 months while they were in a coma. Or that person may have picked them up in the middle of the night many times, or took them out to dinner, or just done beautiful things. Now I'm upset about you, and that becomes my whole relationship with you. That's the only thing I remember now, is what I'm upset about you. And if we were to look back on our ex-teachers called girlfriends, boyfriends, mates, or whatever, then we would have a tendency to look back and remember, this is what that person did to hurt me. This is what I'm upset about, and overlook every loving, wonderful, beautiful thing that person ever did. And I think that's a shame, but we innocent, right? And so the Course says, rather they are magnified. And so what is a magnified error? It becomes a block. Becomes a block to what? Your awareness of the self that lies beyond your own mistakes. See, I'm not going to be, it's going to block me from seeing the loving self that I am beyond my mistakes when all I do is focus on you. Because the nature of the mind is that it applies to you whatever you apply to others. Whatever you say about others, that's what your mind adds to you. The Course says nothing can come through you without having an effect on you. So if I'm a person that's always letting anger, guilt, and grievances and upset, that's what comes through me all day, that's what I'm feeling all day. It's having an effect on me all day. Now, don't get alarmed because this will make sense. Okay, we're gonna be okay. I know with the Course in Miracles says we're not crazy, we're not insane. We have learned insane lessons. So if you had to learn that 3 and 3 was 9, and I asked you if 3 and 3 were 9, then you all would say 3 and 3 is 9. So doesn't mean you're crazy, that's what you learned. And then the Course says, okay, how do you know what you've learned is either not true or not being interpreted correctly? By the amount of separation, anger, guilt, and grievances. And that's what I see in our perceived reality. All the separation, all the tribalism, all the one political group against another political, all that stuff going down is just nothing but a bunch of BS ego crap to keep us from recognizing we are one self united with our Creator. I don't care what political party you're with, all the Republicans versus Democrats versus all this crap. It's all a way to believe that we're separate from each other. That's it. From a Course in Miracles perspective, and not from your perspective. Every sense of separation that we have. And it's usually because of the agenda we have personally ourselves that we want to see validated, right? If we just be honest with it. But what you think about me is none of my business. That's what I tell people. What you think about me, that's none of my business. You know, because I'm not going to change because of anything you're saying about me unless it's something I'm inspired to do. I wish people would get that. You know, that you can say anything you want to about me. It does not have to have any more meaning to me than I give it. And if I really believe I'm sustained by the love of God and that I'm going to be taken care of regardless, which I have learned after 30-something years of doing this and seeing countless different people in front of me come and go, then that also makes you be more authentic with people because you're not dependent on any individual for what your substance. You see what I mean? So you can't lose by getting in touch with your true spiritual identity. The true answer to everything is love, even though we're going to come up with a million other reasons and many other reasons why that's not the answer. And the Course talks about that we think love is weak because many people take the version they have of love and say, I've been hurt the most by who I loved. And I've been hurt the most by who said they loved me. And people said they love me and then they change their mind. So the programming is love is weak, fear is strong. Right? So when you say I'm going to use love, like this is how Mary Ann said the other day on the debate, then she got ridiculed because we're in a world that it looks like fear is the only thing that's real. So therefore everybody defends why you shouldn't use love, and they don't realize that they're not talking about love when they say that. They're talking about the world's version of love, which is what frightens them, which is specialness. So when they hear her say that, they think she's talking about specialists because we pick and choose who we love. And we give and take our love based on whether or not somebody acts out the script. So it sounds silly when someone says, it's through love we're going to conquer this. But I keep saying, we're not talking about what? Our version of it. We're talking about the divine level. And then it says, perception has a focus. It's this focus that gives consistency to what you see. Change but this focus, and what you behold will change accordingly. So how do you change what you're looking at? You change your focus. And some of us really focus up a lot. Have you ever focused up?
Yes.
Yeah, it's right. So if I'm going to see you, I have to have a focus. If I'm consistently focusing, what I consistently focus on is what I'm going to see. So therefore, if I change the focus, what I'm going to see changes. If I focus on everything that keeps me afraid of you and separate from you and different from you and hating you and judging you, will I see that consistently?
Yes.
Yes. If I want to have a different perception, I have to change my focus, right? So people want to keep the same old focus and then try to forgive the same old focus. Right, I'm seeing you as no good, and I think the truth means I'm supposed to forgive you for being the no good person I see you as being. But I really haven't changed my focus at all. I still see you as being no good or upsetting me, but I think that forgiveness is me trying to make myself like somebody I don't like. That I'm going to overlook the harm you really did to me. And so the Course in Miracles says, when you change your focus accordingly, and the reason why I work, even though I've read this book over 100 times easy, I work out of the books to show people that don't fall for that perception that your ego will tell you that I can't read the Course. It's too deep. I'm reading right out of the book and clarifying, and you're going, yeah, I see that. I'm not saying anything strange. As a matter of fact, it just makes total sense. If I change the focus, what I see is going to change. And if I don't trust you, I'm certainly not going to feel safe and loving toward you. I have a lot of programming that's not necessarily true, so I need an inner teacher. I need help. I cannot do this on my own. That's the other premise of the Course. It is not a typical self-help, personal growth book that's telling you how you can better take care of everything yourself on your own by yourself. Okay, that's not the Course in Miracles. It is truly a spiritual discipline. And so that does mean bringing in the idea of a divine, of a creator, that there's something greater than us sorry. Okay, because nothing seems to upset people more than the God concept. And I understand that based on some of the stuff we learned as children about God. I totally get why a lot of people come to Course and they say, I know this is a book about, this is a spiritual class, but just don't mention God. Just a what? Just don't talk about God. And heaven help you if you mention the word Jesus. You can mention Shiva, you can mention Buddha, you can mention every kind of religious God anywhere over the world, but you just better not say Jesus. And I had a lot of that programming when I got into it myself. But I realized what I was upset about was my learning of that. That's why I often said Jesus of the Course. And I asked Jesus of the Course, because that Jesus is the one I resonate to in terms of the all-loving, unconditional, the loving Jesus. And so the Course says, he says, your vision now will shift to give support to the intent which has replaced the intent you have before. So I need an intent to replace the intent that I have before, and then my vision will shift. If you notice another genius about the Course in Miracles, it just said the same thing another way. That's all this did ever since I started. I've been doing since I taught. It says, change the focus, what you see will change accordingly. Your vision will now shift. Why? Because it's going to support the new intent that you have to replace the old intent. And there are but two intents, joining or separation, love or fear. So let's keep it simple. Either I got an intent to be separate from you, or I have an intent to join with you. And it says, remove your focus from your brother's sins. And a sin is a mistake you think that somebody makes that cannot be corrected, that's just the way they are. That's one of the Course in Miracles definitions of sin. Or you could always use the word fear. Only talking about love, only talking about fear. And it says, remove your focus on your equals sins or errors or mistakes, and you experience what? Peace. So and then it says, well, where does the peace come from? From faith in sinlessness. So I'm going to have more and more peace as I see your innocence, even though my ego is going to tell me every reason why you're not innocent and I shouldn't see your innocence. So that's why I keep saying that. I know each and every one of us can come up with a justification for hate, upset, anger, and grievances. I know that. Everybody's got a story of how they've been mistreated and what's unfair, all of it. So let's just accept that all of us at some level have some things maybe, unless we're in total denial, that, we think happened to us in the past that may not have been so awesomely beautiful. So the Course says, but in the end, your peace, which is total fulfillment, it defines peace as total fulfillment, not contemplating your navel in a cave. Most spiritual people who see themselves as spiritual, their definition of fun and peace is the most boring thing in the world to me. I think sometimes that's why people don't get on a spiritual path, because they're stereotypical descriptions of what it means to be spiritual. You quiet, or you don't do anything, or you're never partying like a big dog, or having a good time, or playing. Unless you're quiet and always speaking nice, your spiritual person never curses.
See you next week.
Spiritual person never acts like they have any kind of sensuality or sexuality. A spiritual person doesn't act like they ever, you wouldn't want any form of money or abundance or anything like that. These are all stereotypical descriptions of what spirituality looks like. For you, it will be the way it expresses itself in you. That's the way that brings joy and peace and love through you. So I've had my most transformative moments in clubs, listening to live music, dancing with everybody that was around me in the audience. And I've been in so-called spiritual classes and felt more separate than I've ever felt anywhere with any people at all. Because people will usually be somber and don't really reach out to each other a lot, or be tempted to come to the class for what they can get individually and not what we can experience with each other collectively. I have a personal problem. I'm going to come to the class. Maybe he can give me some insight into my personal problem. I'm in the same physical location with a group of people, so I'll say I'm experiencing oneness and joining. No, you're not. I'm not beginning to experience oneness and joining until I become aware and conscious of all of you as one self with me, that I'm united with my Creator. Not because I'm upset with my mama and I need her to tell me what I need to do about it. That's not joining. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to get that insight either, so don't get me wrong. But don't mistake that for we've all come together and we're one with each other. That's, I know. Oh, I can't even feel like that, huh? Okay. Don't take away all my little pseudo-spirituality, man. You blowing it, buddy. This faith, I tell people all the time, I'm very wealthy in everything that's really valuable. And I bet some of you are. That you are totally wealthy in ways that are truly valuable, which is being loved, feeling lovable, and feeling connected, and maybe your needs are met. Everything else is gravy. Everything, once you get past food, clothing, housing, everything else is gravy. That's just stuff that you're making up in your mind that you want, that you think you need to be happy. And it's not. It's not. The biggest growth that I went through in my spiritual path was when I got everything I thought I wanted and I still wasn't satisfied. The Course in Miracles says our idol is the word more. We always have to have more. It's always got to be more. He says whether it's more pain or more joy, it's just got to be more, right? And so the truth is you don't need more. You just need to recognize all the abundance that you already have, all the love that's already available. He says that a conscious being's prayer is, I pray to be able to recognize what I already have. and then appreciate what I already have. And that appreciation will then increase that. Okay? Picture this glass being so full with water that it overflows over the sides. Well, all the people who are thirsty are drinking the water that's flowing over the side, right? And they're quenching their thirst, right? But the glass is always full. And that's the way we're supposed to be. You're full and you're overflowing with love. And that overflow it's causing everyone else to receive what they need also, but at the same time, at no level is there any lack in your experience of love. Think about how cool that is. But it is most people are just the opposite. They think they don't have anything in the glass, so I'm walking around looking for you all to put something in my cup. And that's my lover. They're the main faucet. Right? So the person I'm in a special relationship with, they're supposed to be and you better be my only faucet. And I better be your only faucet. Right? And if you want it that way, you can have it that way, but don't forget, the truth is, you're supposed to be the overflowing love. So I'm not talking about how you do your relationships. I say that all the time. It don't matter to me. The truth, whether you're monogamous, open, all that stuff doesn't matter because it's all based on separation in the body, so none of it is really coming from anywhere true. But we just have to make sure that we operate at the level that gives us the most peace. Because when you talk about any of those things, we're talking about bodies. We're talking about, I'm going to have a relationship with 2 or 3 or more bodies, or I'm just going to have a relationship with one body. When I'm still coming from a perception of separation, and I'm still basing everything on something that's not going to last eternally. As cute as your bodies are, none of them will probably be around 300 years from now. So stop making yourself feel guilty about something that you're not even going to be existing or remembered 300 years from now. Nobody will remember what you did on prom night, I swear. They won't know. It'll be gone with the wind. It really will. So stop making yourself feel guilty about things you did in the past that are not happening now. And most people don't even know about it until you tell them. So it means it's not happening, right? And anything that's real is happening now. So the Course in Miracles says to us, this faith, what faith? The faith in sinlessness receives its only sure support from what you see in others past their sins. So if I'm going to see you as innocent, then I have to be willing to focus on the things that I see in you beyond what I perceive to be your mistakes, which might not be your mistakes, it just might be my perception of your mistakes. For their mistakes, if focused on, are witness to the sins in you. So whatever I focus on in you is a witness to what's going on in my mind. So if I'm going to use judgment to my advantage, if I'm criticizing, judging, and condemning anybody, I should say, thank you for making me aware of what's in my own ego that needs to be corrected. So rather than trying to correct that in you, I just use you to realize I'm the one that's selfish. I see you as uncaring. Oh, thank you for making me aware that it's my ego that's uncaring, too. So that's the advantage of judging people. Just judge away. It will make you aware of your own consciousness. Do you know that many people only get their feeling of feeling good out of feeling like they're better than everybody else? Mm-hmm. You know, so therefore, that's why they're so hard on everybody else, because that's their way of making themselves feel special and good. Mm-hmm. Yeah? But if you say to them, you can only see my ego through your ego. You can only see my fear through your fear. You can only see my selfishness through your selfishness. You can only see how loving I am through how loving you think you are. You can only see how free that I am by seeing yourself as free, or seeing me as free, sees you as free. So if you want to get out of denial about what kind of mind you have and what kind of person you are, then think about the conversation that you have in your head all day long about everybody around you, and you'll know what kind of ego consciousness you have. Cricket, 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 cricket. Okay. So, and he says, for their mistakes are focused on the witnesses to the sins or mistakes in you, and you will not transcend their sight and see the innocence that lies beyond if I what? Focus on your errors, your mistakes, and my projections. So I'm going to stop right here for a minute. give anybody an opportunity to share and also to ask any questions, but I'd like to try to keep them focused on the subject matter. So anybody have any ahas or any questions or any comments that they'd like to make about what this section has said so far that I've covered with you? Clarifications.
And Brittany, this is so incredibly valuable. Kind of one thing that really stood out to me that you mentioned was when we look into another person and like we begin to see the reflection of ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like in my direct experience with the course, one place where I applied that to is it's like I went through a period where it's like I can't apply this to this situation, and that was some early childhood trauma. But then through this and through other spiritual practices, when I was able to apply that method of forgiveness to somebody that had abused me in my childhood age,
Mm-hmm.
I was offered the freedom that I was offering them. And it brought this level of empowerment that I had never experienced before. And so, of course, like those situations come up in my daily life still with the family. So I'm very happy to be here today because it's like, okay, I am still judging people for the issues that I think they have.
Mm-hmm.
When really it's just me. It's
Uh-huh.
still just me.
Uh-huh.
It's still just what I
Isn't
think
it great
is
to know
wrong
that
with
that'll
you.
always be true?
It's still just me.
Because what that means to me is that, first of all, even though in the beginning when you hear that idea that, you know, what you are experiencing from somebody else is what's going on with you. And I love that you brought up a situation of abuse. Nobody's justifying that. What it's saying to us is how I feel today is going to be determined by how I look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to remember. And you could spend all your time trying to get the abuser to change or the person that you're judging to change, which is the least effective method of achieving peace. Because you know how challenging it can be for you to change yourself, and you know you want to change you, and it's you. And the world tells you to set it up where if black folks was different, I'd be happy. White folks was different, I'd be happy. If my mom was different, I'd be happy. If Republicans was different, I'd be happy. If Democrats were different. The ego is always, if this were different, I would be happy. And that's the hardest way to change anything because you don't have control over anybody else's thoughts and behaviors at that level, right? So, but if I go, all right, my happiness comes from me, and if I can shift my focus, then I'll have a different experience. Yeah, I still got to do some work. But now I'm actually applying my energy where it's the easiest. Even if I've got to do work on myself, it still would be easier than me trying to change you, right? So I'm glad, even though I have work to do, that at least I'm going about it in a way that's most effective and actually the easiest way. Since everybody wants to do everything the easy way, the easiest way is for you to change your own mind and your own perception as opposed to coming up with how somebody can tell you how to change your mother, your father, your mates, your friends, other people. It really would be better for me to hear how can I, because we're control freaks anyway, so why not want to exercise that control where you really have control the most, which would be over your own perceptions. So to me, this is good news, but I remember when it was threatening news. Because if I'm the most negative person in the world, and you tell me my thought is creative and that what I'm experiencing is going to be a result of my consciousness, that's not good news. If you tell me my happiness comes from me and not from another person, and I've been trying to have relationships all my life and make myself happy all my life and I haven't been successful, that's not good news. Right? Because I haven't been able to get my happiness to come from me. So what's the problem? I've left out God. I've left out my inner teacher. I've left out my spirit guides. I've left out angels. I've left out my friends without bodies, which is a cool definition of an angel. It's your friend without a body. We'll say we're not bodies and we're spiritual beings, and then we'll scoff at the idea of someone saying, well, there's non-physical beings that are communicating with us. And we don't see the total contradiction in that. If I'm not my body, then it's possible that there are other consciousnesses that are not their bodies either, that's just on the other side of our physical perception, because our physical perception works within a certain frequency, and outside of that frequency, you don't see anything. Dogs can smell things we would never smell. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. They just operate on another frequency, another sensitivity. Why can't we apply that to physical perception? That all we're doing is seeing certain frequencies that we're able to see. Why couldn't there be something beyond what we can see? And then how will we become aware of that unless we start to give it credence at some level, because we don't see it. So therefore I need to start supporting the idea that I can contact it beyond my physical perception. So there's a certain point on the spiritual path. If you're going to go further, there are two things you have to do. You have to let go of the idea that you're going to do it by yourself, and you have to become open to the idea that there's non-physical intelligence, spiritual beings, divine self, if you want to call it, beyond what we physically see and hear in the world. So much of this you can do on your own, is what the Course tells us over and over again. The ego is the idea that I've got to do it on my own. He says that is what the ego is. It's the idea of separation. Anybody else? Come on.
I think I've known Earl since 2002, so it's been an interesting journey with the Course. But I wanted to respond to you that, and everyone in here, that one of the biggest things I'm discovering is seeing your brother as miracle worthy. And when you have, I think it's called the holy instant, when especially if someone is in your face with a behavior that feels threatening. I had an Uber ride, I drive for Uber, so I had a guy right before coming here that was just on edge. And so my job, I knew, was to, anger is a call for love. This is a call for love. This is a call for love. And at that point, you can see them as miracle worthy. And then you feel that sense of relief within yourself, because you are now telling yourself you are miracle worthy. And also, I want to say that part, it's a part of you that is afraid. It's not the real you. So a lot of the spirit, because I've gone off and studied some other spiritual stuff. There's nothing like the Course, okay? Nothing like the Course in that gets you out of denial, but also the more I practice it, the more you practice it in every moment and everything in your life that comes up in that situation, you are really discovering who you really are. That person that is judging, the whole thing about this is a reflection of who you are. No, it's not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of that part of you that's afraid. But the real you is that overflowing cup. And recently, since I've been serious, really doing the lessons seriously and following Earl's classes, I can feel that's who I really am. This is who I really am. So that's I just wanted to remind you and everyone else in here. Every time you practice, you give your brother that miracle. So it's I hope this is not off from what you're saying, but that's the experience of seeing your brother as miracle worthy instead of sinful.
Thank you. That was really beautiful.
And I want to add to what you're saying, and if you don't pull that off of feeling better at first, part of practicing the Course is that you don't condemn yourself even when you don't pull it off. Because that change doesn't start to happen except through constant repetition and doing it over and over and over again. And the reason I say this is because when people get ready to make their commitment, the mistake they make often is they think readiness is mastery. So as soon as I say I'm ready to be a loving person, then I should be able to walk out this door and forgive the abuser. Just because I heard today I should not focus on this. You see what I'm saying? So just because I'm ready to start learning how to fly a plane doesn't mean the first day of flight school I'm going to get in a plane and go solo because I wanted to learn how to fly a jet. And I'm going to say that because I watch spiritual students beat themselves up all the time because they think that just because they've decided to study this, they should be immediately forgiven of everything and everybody, instead of realizing that it's a process and it's in the repetition that and the remembering that you get the transformation. And the Course says the reason why people don't stick with stuff is not because it's hard, but because they don't think they're worth consistent effort.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I'm worth the effort of what it would take in order for me to be happy. It's not that the Course is saying do anything hard. As a matter of fact, it says it's not hard, it's just different. It's not hard. It's not hard. I've changed my focus. Think of it, having a different focus is not hard. That's just different from what I'm programmed to do. And if you really are really a loving being, no matter what I see in you, then really the way that I keep saying this, the way I see you has no effect on you. So that's kind of like arrogant anyway. to think that this person has no value unless I'm the one that says they have value. There's a part of the course that says God is not so cruel as to leave your healing up to your brothers and sisters who don't even love themselves. Right. It wouldn't be fair for God to make my healing dependent on all of you liking me or looking at me correctly when we don't really know how to look at each other correctly. See, that's kind of stuff of the course is what makes sense to me. See, that's a loving God that wouldn't make y'all's happiness dependent on me. So that's the way I look at it, because I'm working on my stuff just like you're working on your stuff. And I'm glad I don't have to wait to be blessed by God until you all think I'm worthy. Or vice versa. Think about that. I'm not worthy unless you all say, Earl Purdy is worthy. I think he's a cool guy. And I'm not going to help him until I think he's a cool guy. And there's something that in real love goes, I'm going to meet you where you are with whatever you're going through, and I'm going to love you and nurture you and heal you and support you. That's love. It's not saying, Earl, after you do the workbook lesson, then I'll help you. Right? Why am I doing the workbook lesson? So that it'll change my perception of myself and others. So I'll give myself more peace. My Creator is always looking at me with love. I just don't see it. He says when you have a grievance, it's like holding an umbrella up between you and the sun. And so even though the sun is shining, you're under the umbrella, and so you're not feeling the sun. And that's what the ego is. It's our own little personal umbrellas that we're walking around with,
Yes.
hiding the sunlight from ourselves, and then saying the sun isn't there. That's all we're doing. That's all we're doing. And so it says, therefore, in practicing today, we first let go of what? All such little focuses. And we're going to give way to our great need. What is our great need? To let innocence become apparent. So I'm going to stop focusing on what I don't like about you, and I'm going to focus on there's an innocence beyond what I see. So that's important. You notice that little shift that I gave? It's not that I'm going to physically see your innocence through my grievances and programming and fear. I want to believe. I want to get in touch with that innocence and sinlessness and guiltlessness and love that's beyond my focus. So what should I do? I should take my focus off of whatever the grievance is I think I have and the justification of it, and go, what I want to do, Holy Spirit, universe, God, show me how to let go of that focus and tune into what is beyond what I'm telling myself about you. Because I'm not going to try to do this by myself anymore. See? And then it says, we instruct our minds. I love this. We instruct our minds that this is what we're seeking. What is it that we're seeking? To see each other's innocence and to see each other beyond our programming and our guilt with each other. Simple concepts. For he says, instruct our minds that it is this we seek. What? And only this. And only this. For just a little while. For just a little while, I want to see you beyond thinking of you as the bastard I think you are.
Thank you, Earl.
Yeah, just for a little while. Just a little while. I just felt some spiritual people explode. Wait a minute, bastard! I know you're spiritually strong, and that word just blew your mind. Okay, so I can hardly see myself as a vergon of spiritual strength, and words bring me to my knees. Right. And so we do not care about our future goals. We do not care about our future means not yet. So substitute the words, two words, not yet. Watch this. We do not care about our not yet goals. And what we saw in instant previous has no concern for us. So I'm not concerned about what happened a minute ago, and right now I'm not concerned about what's going to happen in the not yet, because I'm in this interval in time where I'm practicing changing my intent. So I'm not focused on the future, I'm not focused on the past, I'm focusing on changing my focus. That's what I'm focusing on in this moment with you. Changing my focus. Not what's going to happen after the class is over, not what happened before we came to the class. We're in the class, we should be focusing on changing our focus. And what did it say our focus should be? Sinlessness and innocence. So if you notice, I'm not analyzing the Course in Miracles. I'm not analyzing the Course. All I'm doing is I'm using the Course to teach the Course. I'm not telling you Earl Purdy's opinions. If I do, I'll tell you when I'm doing it. Right? Right? I'm just saying, this is on the page. I want y'all to stop trying to focus on what happened before you got here and what's going to happen next. Focus on changing your intent, change your focus, and then what you see is going to shift. When you change your focus, you're going to see something different. And you're going to see something different in anybody and everybody that you're upset about right now. And after 40 years, let me tell you, this book is true when it says that. But you have to be patient while you're at that stage of your old perception and focus being the predominant focus, and you haven't learned how to go to the new focus yet. You're not going to be able to walk out of here today, and don't start with the person that you got the biggest grievances and misperceptions with. That's the other thing that you have to be careful about.
Right.
People will go straight to the person that did the greatest harm in their perception, who they have the greatest grievance with. And I go, no, just start out with the person that took your parking space. Start out with the person that skipped you in line. Don't start out with the parent that beat the hell out of you for 10 years straight, and that's who you're going to go today, and you're going to change your focus on. Because if you can't do it, it's just going to be a trick to make you think this doesn't work, and I will not continue to try to apply it. It's just a trick not to practice the course when you go to the hardest, most extreme things first.
And that point that you just made about changing the focus kind of like strikes me, and I've been practicing the course for like 10 years now, and the temptation sometimes is to actually think by changing your focus, the behavior of the person has to change immediately. Like, that's not what he's saying. From my interpretation anyway, it means that you have peace of mind, and that person might change or not, but it doesn't really matter because you would have had your peace of mind.
Which is why you wanted them to change.
Exactly.
See, I wanted you to change so I would have peace of mind. If I go straight to peace of mind, I've cut out the middleman. Now it doesn't matter what you do. But if I make your change my peace, then that's not a winning situation. And here's another good caveat that I've noticed. The more peaceful and loving you become, people who attack and want a lot of drama, they're not attracted to you, and they move out of your experience. And you have to be sane enough to know that doesn't mean you're going to be alone. Because some people act like, I got into the truth. I thought I was going to have more friends, more lovers, more this, more that. And it's like, no. If the world at first is majority crazy people, and then you are getting away from being crazy, then you are moving into more of a minority at first. Because after a while, if you stay sincere about changing your focus to love and innocence, and that becomes the focus of your consciousness, and your consciousness creates your experience, you will start to draw people to you of a like mind that's the most loving kind people that you could ever imagine. And it will become a day-to-day natural experience to you. Because those who are like you recognize their own. And those who are not like you, they just think you're still like them. So they still don't mess with you. Right? Because they just assume you got the same limited beliefs that they do when they don't recognize you as a spiritual being. And if you're not attacking them and messing with them, they're still going to leave you alone too. That's why you can go to the department store and everybody's going to attack you. Because they're walking around thinking everybody in the store is basically like them, right? Right? So the ones who are unconscious, they just think you're like them. But the ones who really are in tune, the star people as I call them, the people that are the light beings, that are here to be the light, or they're beginning to recognize themselves as light and love, you recognize each other. You feel each other. You connect with each other. But there's an in-between stage where it looks like you're very much alone sometimes. As you make radical shifts in consciousness, it will look like while you're in that shift a lot of times that you're by yourself because you're surrounded by, for a while, people who reflect the previous level of consciousness you were on. Because you created that level of consciousness. You moved to green level, you used to be red. Okay, so while you're moving to green, you created red. So don't be complaining because you're surrounded by red. You used to be red. Right? So then for a while, it'll look like you're around these people who are so different from you, but they're not. They're the exact same way you used to be. And then if you stay red, then the red people start showing up. And then before you know it, you're surrounded by red people. All you know is red people. And then you guess what? You make another shift in consciousness, and now it's purple. And so now you're surrounded by all red people. Don't judge the red people. You used to be red. And for a while, you're going to look like you're the only purple one. And they might go, ooh, you're kind of purple weird, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, then you go to the purple level. So if you're at that in-between period right now where you feel somewhat lonely or like you're trying to do this and you're not getting the kind of feedback or connections that you think you want, that's okay. You're changing classes. It's like in school, right?
Moving on.
Yeah, you go through the hallway until you go into the next room. My brother, my man here, Mr. Eric. How you doing, man?
Good.
Yeah, we go back 30-some years to my first Course in Miracles class.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but, known Earl since 1992, and I don't get a chance to tell you, but you've made the most profound effect on my life of any of my spiritual teachers ever.
Wow.
Amen.
Wow.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
And I'll give you a moment.
No, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
Get
After
misty,
that, well,
misty.
see, I sometimes we don't let it in. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's, just briefly, when I met Earl, I was dirt poor. That year I met you, I didn't even buy the new pair of socks or underwear. I was so poor. And you had a class on abundance and prosperity. And what you were just talking about in that moment, I wanted to just throw in one little twist. I know that you probably want to temper that it may take a moment to transition, but I'm living evidence that you can transition instantly.
Good.
In an instant,
Mm-hmm.
in a moment.
Mm.
And that year I studied abundance and prosperity with you, and I'm sure you remember that my income tripled, and my life has been different ever since. Thank you.
Well, thank you, brother. It's good to hear. It's good to hear what I'm doing. It's good to hear what I'm doing in other beings. Because the Course talks about that. If I don't see you as separate from me, then the blessings that come into your life will also filter into mine. Because if we're not separate, then it's going to all circulate through all of us. So it says you should be happy for anybody's happiness in abundance, because that way you're joining with it, and the result of that can come in your life in the way that would be most meaningful for you. So you can help somebody out financially, but it might come back to you through somebody helping you when your car breaks down. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily come back in the form that you give it in, and that's the other thing. And the universe keeps perfectly fair. So if somebody else seems like they didn't really appreciate what you did, or keeping their agreement about what they said they were going to do, the universe will reward you. It will come back to you in the way that it can, in the way that you want it. So don't worry about whether somebody else is keeping their word all the time about whatever it is they say they're going to do. Like when I'm inspired by spirit to help people who appear to be homeless, whatever, and who I don't give to unless I'm inwardly directed to do. Some people I'm not. Some people I feel compelled. It's like I can't help myself. And then people say, well, they're just going to take their money and go get something to drink. I say, that's judgment. I don't know. That's on them. However they choose to use it, that's their karma. Right. But it's not my job to judge what they're going to do, because in that case, it's not a true gift. No. It's not a gift if you give me a toaster when I get married, and then the next morning I wake up and come downstairs and you sitting there in my kitchen to see if I'm gonna use it. See, now you just imprison me with your toaster. Right? And that's what we do. We give gifts and then we go, you better use that gift, and you better use it the way that's not a gift. At that point, it's an imprisonment. So the Course says that we seek for innocence and nothing else, and we seek for it with no concern but now. So there's a paragraph here I want you to hear, even though I'm about to wind down. It says, a major hazard to success has been involvement with your past and future goals. Notice it said, a major hazard to success. That's just the opposite of what we've been programmed with. He said, a major hazard to your success has been your involvement with your past goals and your... Why? Because it's the way that I've determined for myself that I think I'm going to be happy. And then I try to get everybody to conform to the script that I've written for my happiness. And then the Course says, and you have been quite preoccupied with how extremely different the goal this Course is advocating from the goals you held before, right? It's like, it looks like the Course is advocating a different goal. I need you to tell me how I can have a successful business. And the Course is saying, I'm trying to teach you how you can have a successful spiritual awakening. So the Course in Miracles is not a book about how to be more successful in the world in terms of external material things. It's a book on how to keep your peace and how to keep your connection to Source no matter what's happening in your world, right? And then it says, And you have also been dismayed by the depressing and restricting thought that even if you should succeed, you're just going to lose your way again. Even if I achieve this, I'm going to forget it, or I'm not going to be able to do it all the time. He says, how could this matter? It doesn't matter if you're worried about whether or not you're going to be able to keep this up. It doesn't matter what you think your goal in the world is. He says, because the past is gone and your future is just something you're imagining. He says, these concerns about the past and future are just defenses against present change of focus in perception. In other words, he says, whenever you think about how different this is from what you've learned in the world, and you're thinking about your past, and you're thinking about what's going to happen in the future, he says, that's just a way to keep you from doing what you're being told right now. Right. That's just a way to keep from remembering what we were told to do about changing our focus and looking for innocence right now. He says, nothing more. We lay these pointless limitations down a little while. So what do? He says, we don't look to past beliefs, and what we will believe will not intrude upon us now. We enter into the time of practicing with one intent, which is what? To look upon innocence within. That's all I want to do right now. I don't care what y'all did in the past. I don't care what you did in the future. I don't care what I thought about in the past. Or right now, I'm going to use this is an opportunity to change my focus about what I'd like to see in you. We recognize that we have lost this goal. How can you tell when you've lost your goal? If anger blocks our way. So how do I know when I'm not practicing? I'm mad. How can I know when I'm not focusing on what I should be focusing on? I'm angry. He says, and if a brother's errors, angers, whatever it is they've done occurs to us, he says that's our narrowed focus, and so it's going to restrict our sight, and when we restrict our sights to what we're upset about in the other person, he says that turns our eyes, what? Upon our own mistakes, because now I'm focusing on you, and so it's focusing on what's wrong with me, and he says now my own mistakes are magnified, and I call them my sin. So what is a sin? It's a magnified mistake. It's all a sin is. It's some mistake I think I made it so horrible and so bad that I could never be redeemed from that. He says, so for a little while, without regard to past or future, such blocks arise, we will transcend the blocks. How do we transcend the blocks? We will give instruction to our mind. How do I transcend my blocks? What I tell myself next, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to instruct our mind to change its focus. I'm mad at you right now. Mind, we need to change our focus. I need to change my focus on you. Like you got upset at a party, you might walk up to them and say, right now I'm really trying to change my focus on you. Right now I'm really having a hard time, but I need to change my focus. Or you're not even coming home tonight. You know what I'm saying? It's like, tell yourself the truth. He says, instruct your mind to change their focus as we say, what? It's not this that I would look upon. I trust my brothers who are one with me. I don't want to look at this in you. I don't want to believe this about you. I want to trust you who are one with me. So yeah, I'm looking at the mistakes. Yes, I'm mad. Yes, I'm projecting. Yes, I'm restricting and limiting myself, but I'm going to tell my mind, I don't want to see this. This is not what I want to see in you. This is not what I want to think about you. I hope I'm wrong about what I'm telling myself right now. You know, I don't want to see you this way. If you approach a person like that, that decreases their defensiveness and they become more open to what you have to say after that. If you just walk up and say, you know what, I don't want to feel this way about you right now, but I'm not trusting you right now, and I'm feeling fear right now. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to see this in you. I really want to look at the innocence in you. How can we see this a different way? What can we do? If that person has the slightest little modicum of innocence or love in them, they will be more open to doing it another way. It's not complicated. It's all about how we communicate. The Course teaches communication is salvation. How we communicate is salvation. So let's acknowledge ourselves for hearing this much. I'm going to do one little last thing before we leave out of here, and let's do the financial expression of appreciation. And thank you for sharing with me as a full-time teacher, and thank you for your continued support. And those of you who are online, if you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, a donation to my teaching ministry, just go to earlpurdy.com, P-U-R-D-Y, earlpurdy.com. And Also, you can use Venmo, and you can use my email address, earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. And I do clarity sessions, and those clarity sessions are all about how can I apply this in a practical way to my experience right now so that I can get past this block or this unhappiness that I'm having. You don't have an original problem. Thank you all for sharing with me and realizing that this is what I do full time in the world, and it's God sustaining me. But at the same time, God works through people because I have the same needs that you have. I don't live off the ethers.
You do?
Yes. Sometimes people think if you do spiritual stuff, you don't need what they need. You know, it's really funny, you know. If I was a football player, nobody have a problem with me receiving $100 million a year. But you know that some people resent me even saying that you have the opportunity to share with me. It's one thing to say you love somebody. It's another thing to do something that makes a difference in their life. It really is, you know. And I've had to remember that in my life. You know, because I've had to live off all the words of love I've heard in my life. I'd be on the street. But in the end, it's God that's sustaining us through us. We are God. We are one. I deserve to receive and you deserve to receive. But whatever it is you do, you know, don't resent another person because they want to do the same thing you do, which is to receive and give. You know, and I have to remind myself of that because whatever I receive is being determined by my own consciousness and by the way, ultimately, the way I feel about myself at some level. So it really doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. I'm receiving what I'm giving me. And that's deep.
Yes.
That's deep when you think about it. Everybody's giving you what you're asking for. That's one of the most radical concepts of the Course. Because everything that seems to happen to you, you ask for. And you're receiving just as you've asked for it. The problem is you don't know what you're asking for. So when I wake up in the morning, I go, okay, this is another day that's giving me an opportunity for me to see what I've asked for. Because what I really asked for is not necessarily what my ego is telling me I've asked for. My ego would say I've asked for a particular experience and it doesn't happen, right? Well, the truth is, what I asked for was for it not to happen. That's because that's what happened. So that's exactly what I asked for at some level. And so if you want to learn how to apply these principles to your personal situation, that's what I do with the clarity sessions. And that includes my 40 years of knowledge of astrology and numerology for also. And so it includes a reading and an interpretation of your chart for those who are open to that. It's called a clarity session. There's a divine plan for your life. You weren't just dropped here. There's an easier path. It's just your path. And see, that's the problem. I think sometimes we're too busy trying to act out the path that the world has set for us and not really following our own individual path. And astrology and numerology is one of the many, many ways that the universe communicates with us. And so the Course promises that Spirit would use whatever your talents are, whatever you learn as a tool for your awakening. So whatever you're doing in the world, Spirit can use that for your awakening. So you don't have to give up your talents, your skills, and your interests to be on a spiritual path. It will be incorporated into your spiritual path. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. If you go to my website, earlpurdy.com, you can set up an appointment with me right there from the website so your mind can get blown away. Yeah. And so Facebook Lives, Sundays at 1:00 p.m. Mountain Time on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook. I want to thank my mighty companions for being here. Tuesday nights I do The Way of Mastery, which is another channel book at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on Facebook Live. And then Hardcore Course in Miracles for Course in Miracles students primarily who have decided they really want to do it and they are doing it. And they want to take advantage of somebody who's been obsessed with it for 4 decades. And I'm going to soon be starting some more personal private classes that are going to be even more intense. You know, because I've been approached by many people who want to do even more in-depth study with me that requires a commitment.
Will you advertise that?
Yeah, and make sure you go to my website too and make sure that you're on my contact list because I'm full and I need to do some overflowing on a bunch of y'all.
Flow, bro.
I'm the flow bro.
Flow, bro.
Just call me flow bro. That's my spiritual name. You know, because it's like that though. You get full. And it's so much I learned from not just studying the Course, but from working with people. So many people for so many years. And do you know what I found to be the biggest illusion of all? The idea that we're different. That's the biggest joke, is that we're different. and I've talked to literally thousands of people, let me tell you, we aren't really different. We do the same things at different times. And because we do it at different times, we're under the illusion that we're different from each other. You're sad today, and other people are happy, so you say you're different. Next day, that same person that was happy will be sad, and you'll be walking in going, this is the best day I ever had. The only difference is time. That's the only difference is time. And so I'm going to say this prayer one more time, and to give us a chance to hear it. And I call them incantations, because if you say it, even if you don't believe it, you'll find yourself getting miracles. And thank you for coming online. We have people that's watching us from all over the world. You know, it's really gratifying to know that, you know, there's been over 1 million views of my classes, and to know that there are people out there that are benefiting in ways I don't even know. You know, except for every person you hear from that, I think I mean the hundreds, they said represents, that didn't contact you, that felt like they were being connected. And each and every one of you have people that will be sent to you by spirit that will love and accept you the way you are, who need you the way you are to benefit them spiritually. The relationships that present all of the challenges are the ones you choose. Yeah, and that's really the truth. The job that you hate is the one you chose. Yeah, the person you have now, that's you. I think she cute, so that's gonna be the one, right? It's like I didn't go, Holy Spirit, this is supposed to be for me. Make me totally aware of that right now. And if I'm trying to give it them because I believe that they're gonna make me happy, I know I'm already in my ego. Is that right?
Yes.
That's right. So don't forget that. So I want you to think about somebody right now that you may be seeing as less than godlike. I know it might be hard. Do you know who it is? Do you have them? Do you have them in your mind?
I got a few.
Think about something that you've been looking at, somebody you've been looking at. You got them in your head? You got them in your mind? Those of you online, take a minute. You got them? Tell yourself, it is not this that I would look upon. It is not this that I would look upon. It's not this that I would look upon. Think about the grievance. Think about the upset that you think that you're feeling toward that person right now. And tell yourself, it's not this that I want to look at. It's not this I want to look at. It's not this that I want to look at. It's not this that I want to look at. It's not this that I would look at. It's not this that I want to look at. It's not this that I want to look at. Instruct your mind. Instruct your mind to change its focus. 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 I trust my brothers who are one with me. I trust my equals who are one with me. I trust my equals who are one with me. I trust my equals who are one with me. I trust my equals who are one with me. I trust my equals who are one with me. I trust my equals who are one with me. I trust my equals who are one. Now you want to take that person in your mind. They will get you in touch with what's going on with your behind. And tell yourself, I trust this equal who is one with me. I trust this equal who is one with me. I trust this equal who is one with me. I trust this equal who is one with me. I change my focus. I change my focus. I change my focus. I change my focus. Now don't forget, readiness is not mastery. So be gentle with yourself. If you try to practice this and you don't feel any better, then know that that does not mean that you have not experienced the healing. The Course in Miracles teaches that one of our biggest mistakes is doubting a healing because the symptoms still appear. So for instance, if you have a strep throat and you go to the doctor and they give you a shot for the infection, your throat still looks the same red at first, even though you've gotten the healing. So just you are getting the healing, and don't doubt that just because it'll still look like you're experiencing some of the same things on the outer. You all are doing an incredible job of loving yourself more than ever before, and it's an honor to be in your presence.
Hey, same
It's
here.
an honor to be in your presence.
Appreciate you.
You are juicy and cute. That's the truth about you. So I love you. Thank you so much for coming. Hugs are available. I'll see you next time. I'll see you next time. Mighty Companions Go Live. Woo! Now your assignment this week is to allow yourself to have fun. Okay? That's your assignment. Have some fun.
Yes.
People need to feel that energy coming through you. Yeah.
Such a burden.
I know. The things that are required of us, the ridiculous things. Hey, Mighty Companions, I love you. Thank you for checking me out.